Welcome back to Brevity Box on Ruminations Radio Network. I am your host, Brandon, and I'm here with the enigmatic Triple C as always.
Hey, hey.
It is Wednesday, November 16th, and we're almost at the top of the hour here at 7 p.m. Charles, how are you feeling today?
Charles. I'm feeling good. I'm liking the vibes with you coming into the show like
Yes, I need to. I've been listening to a lot of NPR lately, and I'm just trying to channel it.
that. And this is being recorded at. Right. I totally remember that. I hear the political podcast all the time.
Okay, it's no longer funny anymore. So yeah, it's Wednesday, November 16th. Almost 7 p.m. here in Tucson, and we just hit the record button. So what's going on, buddy? We haven't recorded in about a week. Haven't heard much from you because I know we're trying to start saving content for this. So what's up?
Man, it's been interesting. My wife has been out of town for a week, so I've been sort of focused on other things, working on the house, things like that. I've actually had a lot more time to just pay attention to what's going on. I've had some time to put ears to a couple of episodes of the um, other podcasts on the network, and we have this app that we use. I'm sure a lot of you will know what Discord is, but that's how we communicate with each other about planning things and commenting on what others have going on. And Brando, that conversation that everybody was clearly engaged in, it seemed to come out of nowhere because I look at my phone and I see that everybody is saying that they're going to have to rent RoboCop. And
Yep.
this came directly from a recent episode of another podcast on the Ruminations Radio Network, and that's Retro Futurist Culture. And he went through RoboCop and revealed a lot of things nobody knew, but you seemed pretty adamant. So I'm totally setting you up, and it's shameless, I know, but it was good. I got caught up in other ones that I want to talk about, but why you were like clearly motivated to go and watch that movie that night.
I may or may not have put my phone on the wireless charging dock at work and fired up the copy of that movie I own on iTunes. Um, but no, I mean, I hadn't thought about RoboCop in a while. I remember you and I went to go see the remake several years
Yeah.
ago. It was an okay movie. Thankfully, it was one and done. They didn't try to franchise it. But the original RoboCop is such it is such an 80s movie, but it still holds up.
Claymation robot.
Oh yeah, you gotta love the claymation robot with like the weird animal sounds it makes when it can't go downstairs and does the whole turtle on its back thing. But no, just the all the crime fighting. Well,
Vicious. One of the most
it's vicious.
vicious
It's
opening
vicious.
scenes.
I
I
mean,
mean,
it's just a perfect example of like a near future borderline dystopian version of Detroit, and it's so bad they have to send in a cyborg or android. I forget the technical term for what the hell RoboCop is into clean it up. And
it's
yeah,
silly that that movie would be the cult classic it became. But I mean, I couldn't. I'm really just trying to set you up here to talk about the show, though. Like, what is it? I think you guys were talking about the director too. I mean, Optimus
and
made a few
again, maybe
points.
it's just the fact that I work with some younger people these days on average, but I don't you don't meet too many people that really just have that real fondness for a real 80s ass 80s movie, if you catch my drift, like RoboCop is. I do love the way they actually went into some of the background on the director, like you said, and it just gives you a bit of a new appreciation for it. And my God, I hadn't seen that movie in probably 12 years. It still really holds up, and it might be more relevant than ever with the fake news reports
Oh, you said fake news. Why'd you go
that segment into the movie.
there? Well, the thing that caught me was that you come in to try and create, and you want everybody to listen, and you want to listen to everybody's show. And I listened to two episodes of Record Store Ruminations, and uh, you never know what to expect. And it just, I guess the only point I'm trying to get at is that they've all inspired me to keep listening, sure, but also like you, I went out and wanted to watch RoboCop. I wanted to watch Scream. because of Ruminations of Red Rum and their breakdown of the movie. I just thought so far it's just been good content, and I mean we're the first fans, right? Is that shameful? We're fans of our own stuff or our friends' stuff.
Not shameful whatsoever.
It's just been good to be really honest. It's been the first, like, since it started becoming clear that there's an kind of an end date to a bunch of, everybody's been so obsessed with politics, and me too. And having a week where I wasn't following an election, I wasn't waiting for something to be, and there's been some scary moments, but I wasn't waiting for something to be revealed or certified or some crazy headline. I mean, clearly an addiction of mine. It was nice to not. I mean, obviously there's not as many headlines. That's been relieving, and then to just have the ability to pop on a podcast, whether it's something like that I've been listening to for years and years, or whether it's some new content from some of our co-creators. I'm I'm really already starting to feel just this huge amount of relief for what I think is going to be more of the norm going forward from the politics of the world. I'm glad not to be hearing as much about it. How
I'm looking
about
forward to America being boring again.
right? I am ready for uh nobody to know what the hell is going on.
And speaking of recent headlines, I mean, I think the only thing that is we can say has been universally certified in the last week is that Rudy Giuliani
Certified is a great word. We need to make that a thing. Certified.
certified is that Rudy Giuliani's out of his goddamn mind.
Well, more so the more time that goes on, and
Four Seasons total landscaping.
I need those shirts.
Woo!
We need Four Seasons Total Landscaping shirts.
Lawn and Order.
It just, I think what gets me is I'm kind of glad to see that there's not as many, there's a lot more people that are hardcore about any of it, but it just seems like everything's going a little more quietly now, and it's relieving. I think the only thing that gets caught in an uproar for me, it's just seeing how it changes. Movie productions are a little weird. Sports are a little weird. I don't even know if you watch sports anymore, being a Vikings fan.
Like I've said it, I might have said it before in this podcast. I have enough uh, depression and anxiety in my life right now, living during the pandy. I don't need the Minnesota Vikings really adding to it at the moment.
What do you make, before we get into that? What do you make of this? I mean, I think we have to acknowledge that on November 16th, it's, what, right on the edge of Thanksgiving. Everybody knows that the pandemic is kind of having its third wave or second wave, I guess, depending on how you look at it. It clearly looks like a third wave to me. But what do you take from that, man? Do you get to a place where you feel like I had a conversation with a friend today where the attitude was more of, if you're gonna get it, you're gonna get it, right? And I mean, several people I live around that just has this air of it's unstoppable, and if you might as well get it now, and these are kind of the same people that we're talking about. um I mean, I guess a lot of people were saying herd immunity 6-8 months ago, and it's a
Herd
real
mentality.
thing.
Say it right. It was herd mentality.
Herd mentality. Well, herd immunity is a what they're going for, right? They're going for.
I know, but they're just dumb. I couldn't resist.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I clearly, what is it? Was it Switzerland or Sweden that did it? It was Switzerland, wasn't it?
One of them.
That tried to go for herd immunity, and it's just broken out a little more too severely. I don't know.
Do the math on achieving herd immunity in America. You're looking at 2.5 dead million Americans.
Well, so that's right. We read. I'm not arguing for. I'm simply saying that when I see what's going on, I don't know. I don't have that feeling personally. I feel like we can do things. And of course I've said it before, right? I think of it more practically. I'm not trying to shame anybody. I just think the messaging is split depending on who you're listening to, without getting too deep into that political spectrum. It's you're not everybody's getting the same information, right? They're unfortunately, and it's kind of, I don't know. I don't know. I did find myself getting a little reacted to that whole "if you're gonna get it, you're gonna get it" thing. I just don't like. I'll tell you frankly. I mean, visiting Arizona, most of any contact, all the boundaries were followed, and that seems, for my wife's trip back, it seemed like everybody stayed 6 feet apart. Everybody wore masks, and there was no casualness about it. And I can tell you, living where I'm at, people are sort of they wear their masks to the grocery store. They do what they're supposed to do, but there isn't this that kind of regard for it, right? Like parents still hug their kids, and that so it's kind of again, is that I did have a thought. I don't know what's what. I just feel like it's better to be on the safe side. Like we can do something clearly, right?
Putting on a mask isn't that hard. Just do
No,
it.
yeah,
And
put on the
we
mask,
gotta
keep the hospitals from getting overwhelmed. So if
see.
somebody
Boom.
gets
That's it.
sick from anything,
That's it right there.
they can
This
go
is
get
my
treated.
problem with the people that have the, oh, you're just gonna get it. Might as well get it over with. Okay, cool. Let's say a lot of people start having that mentality. Oh, I just want to get it over with. ICU occupancy will go up.
Yeah,
ICU occupancy will possibly max out in some areas. And then some poor bastard that gets rolled into the hospital with, I don't know, an appendix about to burst or just got into a horrific car accident.
right.
Yeah,
That's not
they're
what.
shit out of
Right.
luck.
That's what they're not thinking of.
Exactly. They're being
Yeah.
selfish.
Well, and that's
And,
true.
and, and again,
And some to some extent, yeah, they're not. But that's outside of many people's um spectrum. Like I guess I don't know. I feel like if I knew somebody knew this information and rejected it, I'd be harder on them. But I think there are a lot of people that haven't had somebody like us sit there and say, "Yeah, you're not thinking of this." Like the guy came in because he's having a infarction that they could probably treat, but they're overwhelmed, and he's not getting in there for 7 hours. You know?
yeah. I mean, your dad had a bout with it that, from what I recall, didn't seem to be too rough on in the grand scheme of things. Uh, but I was pretty much calling my dad twice a day for 21 days to check on him because I was thinking my dad might die today in the VA hospital and I can't go see him. A
Yeah.
lot of
No, I
people,
had that thought.
a lot of people don't realize those possibilities. And
Well,
I mean, if
right, they haven't had to confront it head on, and that's. I think your dad, your father was hospitalized.
oh yeah,
Mine, thankfully wasn't. But I don't. The way I understand things now, I'm not sure that's because he was necessarily better. I think your father's also younger, and
definitely.
I think mine is survived a double, triple bypass, and had been had a lot of he was on that page, that first group of people they were describing. So I had that feeling too, and that's certainly something that shifts your opinion. I didn't want to get too grim on the matter either. I don't I was surprised to see that this far in, that like what it
People are dumb.
was. Well, just not that people are dumb, but that would be the reaction. Like I'm more curious about why that's the reaction, and I want to, because I think a lot of it's fatigue too, man. And for a lot of them, they don't realize, like if you're a person that doesn't really keep up to date with much, and for whatever, you just have different things going on, then to some extent it could really present itself as being unbeatable, right? Like it just the way that it to them from I try to see it from their perspective, or from someone's perspective is overwhelmed by it or burnt out by it. um and yeah, and try not to get it's hard though, right? Your instant reaction is just to be like, what the what's wrong with you, or what's going on.
Well, I
I think it's
suppose
a lot of Go ahead, please.
I
Sorry,
suppose
I'm
I'm also
talking a
in a
lot.
bit of a sour mood about it today because our governor earlier today did a live stream addressing the state about how poorly we're doing. So I'm just a little annoyed by my fellow Arizonans for the most part.
Yeah, but you know what, it's the whole place, man.
But
it's
hey,
it's real.
we're out of the top 10, baby. Arizona's no longer in the top 10. Now that I've said that, we're probably screwed tomorrow. But
That's how usually things go.
you
Yeah,
shut
you
up.
know what? I got to stay consistent here. we're definitely in the same place that a lot of states are, where you're seeing an uptick. But I've said through every episode here that I've really been impressed with how the community in southern Louisiana has done with it. We're not in that hot zone. Like, we're kind of right there with you actually right now. It seems to be going on up north heavily, and I think they get the, because of their colds region and the way the weather is shifting. I think they get a lot of other things going on at the same time, right? Like you were saying before, if Wisconsin's overwhelmed, there's a lot of people with a flu or a chest cold that just need to get treated and probably are having tough time getting in. And it's affecting everything, right? It just seems like it's going into sports. I do think the NFL has done a, I'm going to make a hard shift here to sports, but I do think they've done a good job at doing what probably we will start doing in the contact tracing. And you've been come into contact with this person, you need to, they're not playing that week, or you kind of see the adjustment, and the games still keep going week to week. Have you been surprised by any of that? Do you think you said before that you thought we were going to be out of it by week 11, week 12?
Yeah, but the owners aren't going to leave that precious money sitting on the sideline for the safety of their players. So the full season, postseason, Super Bowl, unless something horrific happens, and like I don't know, 2/3 of a team winds up hospitalized or infected, it'll play out through to the end.
Yeah, I think it'll play out through the end.
And,
I think they reschedule that game. I
and
don't
you're
think
right.
that they.
Considering the size of an NFL organization, the fact that they've been able to keep it as limited as they appear to be is impressive.
Yeah, and look, I've needed it. I'll be. I love the sport of football, and it's been besides watching Drew Brees get just pummeled and crushed last weekend. That was
Oh, you
not
mean kind
fun
of
to
like
watch.
watching that '09 NFC Championship game when your slightly aging quarterback is getting the shit kicked out of him by dirty players?
I don't recall what exactly. That sounds somewhat familiar,
You know exactly what
but
I'm talking about.
very very long time ago. Do you? But look, you remember that game? Are you still watching at all? You still watch any games? You catch any games?
No, I might catch a little bit of a game here and there. Apparently, Josh Allen is the new Tim Brady, Tom Brady, whatever.
Tim Brady's good. No, let's call him Tim. He likes that. Let's say Tim Brady. That's good.
A buddy of mine is from Buffalo has been fairly excited about it. I mean, no more Tim Brady in the division. His quarterback is like turning on God mode and playing Madden on rookies somehow. So,
It's certainly looking a lot like Madden. I can make a lot of comments about that. You know, we've made it a practice in the last episode to bring in the guest, and then we'll talk about him later. And we're talking about sports, and we're talking about Tim Brady, and I think that means I have to bring in a very special friend of mine, and I'd like everybody to just keep listening, I guess. But Laurissa, you got to chime in on Tim Brady and the Patriots. Welcome to Brevity Box. Thanks for doing this. We'll talk more about who the hell you are in a few minutes. Let's talk about football.
Hi, yes, thanks. Let's talk about Tim Brady. That's great.
I love Tim Brady. I know you're a big Tim Brady fan
I
ever
am.
since he was a part of the Patriots under Bob Belichick.
Yes, Bob Belichick. Bob
Yes.
Belichick, the infamous duo of Tim Brady and Bob Belichick. Yes.
Tim and Bob.
Tim and
the
Bob.
old Bobber. That's what they call him.
there must always be two Sith.
So you are a unabashed Patriots fan from Tucson, Arizona, as is so common.
I know. I often get asked the first, when people hear that, the next question is, "Oh, are you from New England? Are you from Boston?" And I'm like, "No, I grew up in Tucson, born in California, grew up in Tucson." But there's a story behind why I'm a Patriots fan, and it is tied to Tucson.
Gronkowski? Does it involve Gronkowski? Because
It does not.
It
not
could.
involve.
It could.
Could, but it does not.
Okay. Because where did he go to school again? Somewhere.
He went to a little university in northern Mexico called the University of Arizona.
It's in northern Mexico before he found his time under Bob Belichick and Tim
Bob
Brady.
Belichick, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So
So
Yo Soy Fiesta Gronkowski. Gotta love the guy.
I mean,
No,
you gotta. So the thing is, you're always super fun to talk football about, and all the times we've talked about football, I don't think I've ever asked you why you were a Patriots fan, or maybe I did, but it was too long ago.
I don't know if we've ever talked about it. No. But the reason why is because of a player by the name of Teddy Bruschi.
Teddy Bruschi.
Ah,
I met him when I was in
Mhm.
6th grade.
Yes, he was a big deal.
Mhm.
A little bit of a big deal in Tucson, Arizona, because again, went to the U of A. He was a
yes.
part of their storied Desert Swarm defense.
Like it.
And when he was drafted by the Patriots, it was a big deal in Tucson because, there's nothing else going on down there.
This is a
And
really
so-
good reason that I'm gonna have a hard time making fun of you for. Damn it.
I know it kind of stops people once they hear it. And because I had no allegiance to an Arizona team, because when the Cardinals first came to Arizona, they were the Phoenix Cardinals, not the Arizona Cardinals. And everybody knows that there's a big rivalry between Phoenix and Tucson. When you grow up in Tucson, you don't support anything that has anything to do with Phoenix.
Hell no.
See? Thank you.
Yeah.
So I was not about to be a Cardinals fan. So Teddy Bruschi.
And that's because Phoenix is desert LA.
Oh, you're killing me.
Because I know you have something to say about that too.
Oh, that's a whole other topic.
I mean, you're not wrong.
No, you're not wrong.
It's all beach, no ocean.
I love it up here though.
Yeah, by the way, where do you live?
Phoenix.
Yeah,
Phoenix.
okay.
Yep. But yeah, he was drafted by the Patriots, and that's when I went, okay, guess I can follow him to the Patriots. And then the other little
What a year to become a fan.
Yeah, and then I saw Drew Bledsoe, and I went, oh, okay, absolutely. I want to watch that guy play football every Sunday.
So did you hate Tim Brady the first time he took the field?
I absolutely did. Multiple reasons. I mean, it worked out well. Don't get me wrong.
Course.
Tim
right.
did well for us, but there's not only did he replace my beloved Drew Bledsoe, but Tom Brady is from Michigan, and I am also a huge Notre Dame fan.
Oh boy.
Yes.
That's
so
right.
I was watching that game. I remember Bledsoe going down. In comes number 6, the draft pick, no name Tim Brady from Michigan. Are you kidding me?
Dad bod motherfucker, and why is he on my field?
Yes. Yeah. I thought, this is it. Oh my God, what is happening? What has happened to my team? This little no-name kid, Tim Brady. This is not good. It's horrible. Horrible. Hated him.
And when did he steal you back? When did you start liking him?
Well, it was.
Was it the long hair and Ugg phase?
Is it pre-Giselle, post?
It was pre-Giselle. Yeah, pre-Giselle. I mean, that first Super Bowl was pretty amazing. So, that season, and then
it helps that he's a big winner, huh?
I mean, is there anything else?
It would
more
for
important?
me. Look, I can't say anything.
That's what they're playing. That's what they're playing the game for, is to win and go to the Super Bowl and then win.
This is why I casually don't remember when a close friend is making odd references to a playoff game that may or may not have been with some really hard hits on an aging, maybe Hall of Famer quarterback.
The New England Saints defense should have been charged with elder abuse. It's bullshit that they weren't.
That's true. That's a fair point.
Yes,
that's pretty good.
That's also why I don't remember 2 of the Super Bowls that we went to, because they just didn't happen.
I got it. Dilly didn't happen, right?
So I don't know what you're referring to, but no, if it had happened, it did not.
So
I can tell you about it. It was great. So what happened?
Nope. It's okay.
I gotta ask Laurissa something here. So if that's the case, if you're just walking down the street and you see somebody pass by in like a New England Giants jersey, do you like see red and hear like the weird song from Kill Bill and go into a bloodthirsty rage?
Oh, I love the weird thing from Kill
It does tell me all I need to know about that person, and I will stay away from them. Yes.
It's funny. I feel the same way about Green Bay Packer jerseys. Yeah, very cool. Yeah.
No, see? Yeah, so
Yeah.
you get it. You understand.
Relatable. So, as a Pats fan, when I was talking to you this weekend about setting, we were supposed to do this on Sunday,
We
on
were.
game day.
Yes.
And look, props to your fandom for just straight up saying, I'm blowing you off because I have to watch the game.
Yeah.
You're just straight up. That says a lot about how long we've been friends. I get it.
I figured if anybody would understand, it would be you.
Hey man,
100%. Man, what a game. And I gotta get the hot take from a Pats fan. Especially because you didn't expect that. I know you didn't expect that.
No.
So here's my question. Do you feel like, okay, I'll give you a multiple choice. Do you think that what is going on with Lamar Jackson this year is A, the Madden curse, because he is the poster boy this year? For those of you who do not know what the Madden curse is, there is a absurd percentage of accuracy to if a player is, Brando, maybe you do a better job of saying this bluntly.
Basically, if you're on the cover of Madden, it's a pretty good chance that you're going to have a massive slump in the next season or suffer a season or possibly career-ending injury.
Yeah, look, Antonio Brown didn't get injured, and he was a cover man, and he's just now getting a team.
Well, look, let's be honest. He has a possible career-ending, mental injury, if you catch my drift.
Right.
That's good.
Okay, so it's true. Is it because he's got the Madden curse? Is it because he's just overrated? Or is it because Bob Belichick's a genius and knew how to stop him? And yes, I know his name is Belichick. Okay, before anybody freaks out. I just like disrespecting a little bit.
Darth Belichick, use his title.
Fair. The Dark Lord, Darth Belichick.
The Dark Lord.
I have a story about Darth Belichick the cheater.
So what was it? What do you think it is? Do you think it's a combination of, or?
So
like what? Okay, let me ask you. What did you think coming in? Why did you think they were going to lose?
Because the team has been gutted, first of all, between the players that opted out this season due to COVID, which is understandable. But we lost some significant players, quite a few.
You did. It's true.
And then, injuries, Edelman, Nikhil, injuries have taken out some key players. Cam is inconsistent at best.
Man, your inflection said like a paragraph of insult.
To quote, our good old Cam Newton here, a woman talking about inconsistency quarterbacking or whatever the hell he said during that press conference.
Inconsistent, dude. Oh, yes.
What did he make fun of that female reporter for? Asking him about routes?
Oh, that was some time. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Wasn't
I forgot about that.
No meaning any time.
But doesn't it say something about Belichick that he can get these performances out of him at all? I mean, the guy's an amazing coach. But
absolutely. And I feel, and so I want to say that yes, it is the genius of Belichick. That's what he can do. He can get those wins when people think they can't. He manages to do it. However, they also struggled against the Jets. The Jets haven't won a game all season. Now, granted, they were playing really well that game, but they haven't won a game all season, and they almost beat the Patriots.
The Jets haven't been relegated to the minors yet?
No, I know. I don't get it. They're still allowed to play in the league, the National Football League. Why? Don't know.
The XFL should take them.
They really should. Just
there is no XFL. Yeah, they should just take them.
Just take them.
Poor Jets fans.
There are no
Poor
Jets
Jets fans.
fans. Are there really Jets
There's that
fans?
dude
Do
with
they
the hard
exist?
hat. They do.
The one
They
guy
still
with the
want
foam
it.
finger? That guy?
That one guy with the foam finger. Yeah. No, the you know, they have that he wears a white hard hat and goes out there and he leads everybody's chant for JETS. That's who I remember. I just remember them always making a focal point on him whenever there was an audience 30 years ago, like it feels like. So you watch this team go. You're right. Look, you spot on. They've dealt with a lot of injuries, a lot of key injuries, a lot of key sit outs because of COVID, and then they go up against the Ravens,
Yeah.
who are exciting and amazing. And Lamar Jackson is clearly a physically talented athlete. I don't know. I don't know. He's plays the quarterback position. He's made some good passes, but I don't know that I've seen him carry a team as a quarterback that doesn't run. But I don't know if that really is too much of a thing anymore, right? Everybody's running.
Yeah, I think more and more that's the way it's going, is the run game. Yeah. Yeah. And
You see
again,
him.
talking about inconsistency, I think he's definitely displayed a lot of that, Lamar Jackson. You know, he has yet to really prove that he can consistently come in and win against marquee teams.
That's the thing I liked about. I think Pittsburgh's win and Tomlin's reactions are always like a sergeant on a battlefield.
Oh yeah.
We respect him, but we do not fear him. I was like, damn. Yeah, I feel like Belichick played that tape. I was like, yeah, what he said. Let's go. And then
Yeah.
they shut him down. I mean, they played. That's the thing. I'm a unabashed Saints fan, and I can't help but be a fan of seeing them. You hear old like black and white football film era quotes like matriculating down the field. Like they really do go for it 10 yards at a time. And they somehow they iced out a team that always is presented as this monster. You had to feel great that night.
What team are you talking about? What game was that?
Baltimore Ravens.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Totally with Rex Burkhead. That's what blows my
That is
mind.
such a ridiculous 1950s jock name.
It totally is. It's a Spider-Man name. It's the guy Spider-Man knows in high school. Rex
Spider-Man
Burkhead and Peter
name.
Parker. Rex Burkhead and Peter Parker. I'm telling you.
Rex Burkhead is a jerk.
Who was it? It was a
50
receiver, right? It was who threw the pass? It wasn't Cam.
No. Oh God, I'm blanking.
What's his name? Neil?
No. Oh my gosh, I'm totally spacing out on his name right now. I should know this.
Okay, we'll have to edit this out to prove that you know what you're talking about. But it was it was that kind of creativity.
But
Josh McDaniel.
Yes, but to be fair, we have seen that before. There was a time when Edelman and Tom Brady.
That's true.
Edelman threw. I don't think it was for a touchdown, but he did.
It was N'Keal Harris, wasn't it?
No, it was not N'Keal Harry.
Sorry.
It was not N'Keal Harry.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Was it Jacoby Meyer?
It might have been. I just know that was again, Rex Burkhead. They take Rex Burkhead every year for about 4 or 5 weeks is this unstoppable machine.
Yeah. Yeah. Just the go-to guy. He gets us there.
I can't help. That's just awesome. I personally think I like seeing any hot shot quarterback being brought down to earth a little bit. I like the underdog. I think that game put me into a painful position because I don't like Cam Newton, but yet I'm kind of rooting for him.
So, welcome to my world, my friend. Welcome to my world.
That must feel real dirty, and not in a good way.
Not in a good way. So now that Tim Brady's left, how do you feel about what Brady's doing with the Bucks?
Well, he's dead to me because he no longer plays for my team. So
So Tim Brady's accurate.
Yes, Tim Brady. That I don't know him. Uh,
Do you not pay attention to what he's been doing down there at all?
it's hard not to, right? Because there's still
Yeah.
this so much hype around him. You can't help but get caught up in it a little bit, and you know. But did I feel really good when the Saints just pummeled them? Yeah, I did.
That did
I
happen.
did.
That
That
did
happen.
feel good.
It did. Not gonna lie.
It did feel good.
Yeah.
Because of the defensive prowess. Like I have that pick of him just benched with his 1,000-yard stare, feeling just good about our defense and how it showed up. You would I know, I don't know how much of an opportunity you've had, but when we had one of my close friends, Ray, as a guest, and we were going through her I'm sorry, excuse me, their situation with their dad having aphasia. And at one point the discussion got to a place where for if you're not familiar with what that is, that can sometimes affect one's ability to communicate. And
Oh.
at the time, the man is working his way through being able to communicate. I don't want to butcher the story, but you'll have to listen to it because it's great.
Okay.
But the one thing that was clear that he was focused on was a game on the television that involved the New England Patriots. And the one clear thing that comes out of his mouth is Tom Brady is a dick. Like literally, like of all the different things that would be a struggle to say, clearly involved and focused in the game, almost seemingly galvanized by the pure hatred of Tom Brady. And in that moment, salient like statement, Tom Brady's a dick.
Just putting it
Brando
right out
and
there.
I lost it when we heard that part of the story.
I
Well,
think
he's
that,
right.
yeah, that sums up, everyone that is not a New England fan. I think that sums up how they feel about Tom Brady.
It's just a hilarious part of it. I mean, it's I love the sport. I like how it brings people's attention together. You clearly know your team. What have you taken away from the season? Like, how do you feel about the way? Do you feel like it's taken away from the game? I mean, I feel like the not having the audience there is taken away from the game.
Yeah, it has.
The fans
It has.
has really kind of taken some of that, especially for us Saints and Superdome. You're not getting that same fan interaction and pressure on third down.
Yeah, that seems to be what players are certainly commenting on from a fan standpoint. Obviously, I don't know. I'm watching it on TV. Sounds real enough to me, but I mean, our season has just been some highs and a lot of lows, and I really don't know what to expect from this team anymore. Like I said, it's the first time
Right.
time where approaching a season and you go, wow, we probably won't make the playoffs. That's
To start the season that way
weird.
is weird. I can't imagine,
So
especially
early in. Yeah.
for the end of a dynasty has got to be rough.
It makes it sting just a little bit more. But I
It's
mean,
gotta
I wish this made it feel better, but we all knew this was coming,
Right.
We managed to be dominant for 20 years. I mean, that's unheard of. And to have witnessed my team accomplish the things that they did, really to be pissed off that we may not make the playoffs this season. I mean, really, we had our time. We had our time.
Right.
And
Well,
now, if anything, it kind of, I can enjoy, in a weird way, I get to enjoy the games again, because it's not just like, oh, they're winning, all right, I'm done. Well, we got this game on lock, so that's it. It definitely, I'm finding, for better or for worse, I'm much more invested and involved in the games when I watch them, because I literally do not know what the outcome's going to be. We could get
More
blown out.
drama. More
Yeah,
drama.
we could get blown out, or we could somehow magically pull off a win against the Ravens. I don't know anymore. So it kind of makes it more interesting in that respect.
In the year, right? It's the year. It starts off, gets to pandemic, then Cam Newton signing onto your team, like the one quarterback you can't stand, and it's like
Yeah.
your best outlet for getting away from your job and having to deal with everything there in a year of COVID is this.
Yeah. Yeah.
CamVid-19.
19. Nice. I like that.
Thank you. No, so this is a good way for me to segue about this, because I think that's sort of the value of the sport, is being able to draw your attention away from anything, everything. More so a few months ago with the impending election and all the campaigning and people's emotions running high. It's easier now, I think, to enjoy, but I don't really deal with it every day. And I think this is probably as good a time as any to just get a little more into why you're here. But part of this is, let's start with just this year, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you're a lot of things, but you deal with the fact that you deal with the people every day.
I do.
You know,
I deal with the people.
So we're gonna keep the name of your employer out of it, I guess, but unless
Yes,
you feel
please.
comfortable.
I
Okay.
do not.
Let's just say
I
a
technically
well-known
work.
chain of stores.
Yes, I technically work.
Yeah, well, see, you're giving too much away.
Oh,
We'll edit
I said
that
too
out.
much. Okay. Yep.
At 41:55. So, okay, so let's before we get to that, right? Currently, what would you? I mean, look, I always tell people you're a chef just because I love that part of you and we talk food.
Oh, thank you.
And we will. But what would you say your job title is? Just want to say management involved in
Leadership.
culinary?
I would say culinary leadership.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But you deal with people coming in all the time.
Yes,
You deal with varying standards. You've seen a lot of this
Mhm.
effect. Have you had some of that same sort of, same fatigue? How's it affected you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, people were, even at the height of this pandemic, the height of the lockdown here in Arizona, or what constituted our lockdown, you could see people just, because of the nature of the store that I work in, because we were open, we sort of became the place for people to go, because they couldn't go to restaurants. They couldn't go to malls or anywhere
Right.
else.
That's right.
So suddenly they're just flooding the store. And
Wow.
I mean, they weren't shopping. I mean, granted, we had a lot of shoppers as well, but during the summer, I mean, it was crazy. People were coming to the store just to sort of walk around and be amongst people, which was exactly what we were not supposed to be doing. And then as time has progressed, and then from the people that were shopping, it seemed like the pandemic sort of brought out the worst in people. Suddenly it was
just in terms of how they treated you or how they treated each other, or
both. The sense of entitlement, and I do work for a store that already their customer base is already very entitled, so I understand that, but the entitlement just sort of ratcheted up a couple of notches. I mean, it was just just unbelievable. And
did you find yourself smuggling toilet paper?
We no lie, we had to make deals in the team leader office, like, hey, Tony, you guys getting a delivery of toilet paper today? Okay, can you set a couple? I need a couple of packs. Can you just set them aside for me? Thank you.
Maybe you got one of them whipped cream cakes.
Yeah, what do you need? Some cookies?
Hey, fall off the back of a truck.
Seriously, it was legit happening.
Trench coat, parking garage meeting. One's got a bag of toilet paper, the other one's got 4 dozen gourmet cookies.
You got the money? Yeah, you got the stuff.
It kind of was like
the Cookie Monster. You got the stuff.
We were because the grocery team leader, his name is Tony. And so we were literally some days like, hey, are you guys getting toilet paper today? Are you guys getting paper towels today? Okay, can I have, 3 packs or 4 packs, whatever, before it goes out onto the
Wow.
floor? Yeah, we had to. We had to. The
That guy was king
panic.
of the forest for like 4 months.
Oh, Tony was miserable. It was hilarious, but it's okay. He's always miserable. Um, but the
You get to
the
decide who gets the toilet paper and who doesn't. You better treat him right. I
he's
bet
got
he
a
gets
lot of
any
power.
days he wants off. Any day he wants off. You like being clean? Well, maybe I can't be here Thursday. Tony's the man.
Tony is the man.
So you saw a lot of that. You had to deal with it up front. There's a real fatigue that comes with that, I think.
I think now the fatigue is really settling in hardcore. I mean, people are
Right.
coming in, the masks, the amount of incorrectly worn masks is just, people literally do not give a fuck. They have zero fucks to give at this point. My mask is on because I need it to get into the store, but they're taking it off when they talk to you. It's draped around their chin, it's under their nose. I mean, they
And in the meantime, you have to wear that through your entire shift,
entire
which
thing.
can last. How long does
I
your shift
have
last?
to wear it the entire time I am in the store.
Wow.
Entire time I'm in the
Yeah.
store. Doesn't matter. Whether I'm shopping, on the clock, off the clock, doesn't matter. If I'm in the store, the mask is on. And in the bakery, it's extra fun because I'm working in front of not 1, not 2, but 3 6-foot tall rack ovens and a 6-foot tall industrial size proofer. So,
Whoa.
yeah, in the
Heat.
summertime, that was fun. Yeah, it's hot. It's real hot. So I don't have a lot of sympathy for these people that are like, it's too hot. I can't breathe. You know what? Try 120-degree weather standing in front of 3 ovens and a proofer, okay? Then you can talk to me about it.
You know what the perfect response for those people are?
What's that?
You just, it's like, yeah, and our troops wear full gear in Afghanistan during 120-degree days. Shut up, put your mask on.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You support the troops, don't you?
Well, look, and it's funny, but the reality is some of the men that, like, we have friends that are in the military,
Mhm.
and I've asked those questions to them, and that's a lot of the attitude from them as well, is that
Huh.
they don't have a choice, and they've got, if somebody tells you you need to wear some protective equipment, then they have to wear it, and they understand the value and the importance and like how significant it can be.
Yeah.
I mean, I think people definitely get tired of it, but you clearly have an edge on it about it too, and I think I've seen that from everybody who has to deal with it up front like that. Brando, you sort of have your office, right? You don't really come into contact with people regularly, except for coworkers.
And the great thing is, we just got an email from our CEO recently saying that all planned, staged phasing, whatever, of coming back, of slowly coming back to the office is on hold for the time being. It's nice for me because I get to keep my, what I call my fart bubble.
Yes,
there's nobody
a
within
veil,
about a solid 30 feet of me.
A pressurized veil atmosphere. I'm glad you're thinking of these things.
There's maybe 4 other people in my department, and oh my god, I don't ever want it to end.
You understood aerosol-based spread before it became a real part of the pandemic conversation, right, Brando? Is that what you're telling me? You had an edge on that?
Mm-hmm.
Like, clearly, I could just see him sort of beautiful minding his way through an equation when they're talking about the aerosol. He's like, Eric, 20 feet away, smelled my gas the other day. I'm pretty sure he can catch it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, I think it's fair to be stingy with them. It's hard because you're upfront about it. Do you ever run into some of those videos that we've seen where you get called sheeple, or somebody says you're overreacting? Do people sort of bicker at you for having to wear it or wearing it at all, or they sort of turn blind to it?
I think they pretty much leave us alone about it. I mean, there's been a lot of pushback from just the customers entering the store, but I think they understand, or they seem to understand, that for us it's required. We don't have a choice. it's just a part of my uniform at this point. It's like the slip resistant shoes that I'm required to wear. I'm required to wear an apron. I'm required to wear a hat. We already refer to these things as PPE. So it's just one more element to that. And so just like
So
they
you've gone
don't
from chef to hazmat suit,
I,
right? I mean, with that
somewhat,
mask.
somewhat, yeah. Yeah.
My
So we've
goodness.
with that regard, customers have, they've been fine with it. We don't hear a lot of negativity from them towards us
I
in
mean, I can't
particular.
imagine somebody harassing a worker about wearing their mask. I just people suck.
Yeah. They do.
Well, they
I
can.
was a little more profound
Everybody's
with
got
that, but I lost my train of thought.
No, it was pretty funny. Um, you know, I ask you these things. I'm it's just a long way from where I thought you could have you weren't thinking about having to be in culinary leadership dealing with a pandemic in a setting where you were having to deal with people when I met you, because I
Mhm.
mean, you're working at Strictly CDs in Tucson Mall,
That takes me back.
Right?
right?
Remember that place?
Yeah.
Remember that place? Yeah.
I mean, and look, it's a cool place. I mean, it
It
kind
was
of, it's hard not to fall into those Empire Records comparisons because you don't have much else to pull from.
high fidelity too. That one.
Yeah, well, that was
Yeah.
my next one on the shelf. Both love movies I love.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, I mean, you kind of fit the role too, right? Because you had some attitude about what music people were getting, as you should.
Oh, we were 100% elitist and musical snobs. Yeah. 100%.
Please tell me
100%.
who your most hated artist was at that point in time. Who were you really judging people on buying at that point?
Um, probably this was, I mean, in the early 2000s, it was probably Britney Spears or, anything really, any kind of serious like pop music. So
Hmm.
probably Britney Spears. She's probably a favorite target, where we were just like, no, get out, get
And
out.
I
Like
meet
literally
her, and I
that's
guarantee you, my music sucked. Guarantee you, she hated everything. I was like, "Hey, have you heard this?" I was that ridiculous guy. I'm sure of it.
Yeah, yeah. Larissa
well,
doesn't, seem to me like the kind of lady who listens to weird, annoying French house music at 7 a.m. on a Saturday when your roommate's trying to sleep.
You don't know
wow,
that.
it's oddly specific.
Yes, I do because
Probably
it was very
true.
specific.
Just saying. No, it just it fit that atmosphere, and it's been
Yeah.
that's where we met randomly. I worked across from you basically in
Yeah. Well,
American
technically,
Eagle. Yay.
yeah, that's really where we actually met, was at your store,
Yeah.
but we were across from each other. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And throughout, the reason that I always go for a moment in explaining what it is that motivates me to have people invited on the show. And look, it's simple enough to say, how do you get from Strictly CDs, Empire Records, High Fidelity, judging everybody for the music they buy, to being in culinary leadership and judging everybody for how they do things? I mean, there's a stretch of of world between those two.
There
That could go,
is.
we could go there, but the thing is that I know, I mean, obviously we've become very close friends. Thankfully, we've worked in different atmospheres together where we were, co-managers of two different stores for the same company.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that stands out is, I know that for my story, I was very maybe brash or cavalier or just excited to run at, oh, hey, I think I'm just going to move from, this place west. I'm going to go here and I'm going to figure this out. And
Mm-hmm.
that kind of attitude led me to Tucson. And, I certainly run into some people like that, but not many. Most people
Yeah.
have a pretty clear plan, or they have a real like they're not going through that same on their own, especially. It's not one person going on their own and doing something and maybe not knowing how it's going to turn out.
Yeah.
And sort of seeing you go from the different jobs that you did to, and because I had that sort of different levels of being a peer of yours watching you go through it, we can get into all those jobs, sure. But at some point you leave Arizona on your own. I
Hmm.
think you first went to California, or did you first go to Vegas?
No, I first went to Las Vegas. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Then California. And
Mm.
then, right. Okay. So
Yeah.
this is kind of my point. And sort of outside of the whatever was going on in your personal life and relationships and whatnot, it was always on you.
Hmm.
And you would make these calls and just go for it. And you would make it work by yourself. And I've, of course, being your friend, had heard a lot about the struggles that you went through and a lot about the things that you overcame, all the way to the point where you are deciding that you're going to go to culinary school.
Hmm.
And which is something I'm envious of. And Brando, you and I are both connected through food. We will definitely get into that here in a minute.
This is why we're fat, yes.
We know you've been scared watching horror movies by yourself. Well, now you don't have to. Hang out with Ruminations of Red Rum, all things horror from movies to the latest spooky games we've played. Come hang out. But hurry, the killer's behind you!
Yeah, but it's like you did something with a love of that type of affection for preparation and food in general, and you went to an amazing school
Yeah.
by yourself. You worked hard, you carried a job at the same time, and you got through it. And it's a testament to all these different, I mean, that's 3 or 4 different moves that you've had in what, 15 years or less, like 12 years, and put yourself
Yeah.
through school, became a chef, and not going to ask you your age, but you're not 20, and
No,
you've
I'm not.
done all this stuff on your own. And I just think that's a story worth hearing. So I asked you to be here, and I'm glad that you are. And it boils down to that, right? How do you go from being the opinionated music lover? Like, have you always been that way? Was that the story all along? You kind of knew you were going to keep, were you going with your gut, or does it just look that way when you decide to up and leave Tucson and go to Vegas? And why Vegas?
That initial move was just kind of, yeah, going with my gut. It was that, I grew up in Tucson, and I moved to Tucson. My family moved to Tucson when I was 6 from California. And I had always kind of wanted to get out of Tucson, just never particularly wanted to settle there. And kind of had my
Seems pretty
hopes.
common for people from Tucson.
I think yeah, they either settle there, like, because I have plenty of high school, the people I went to high school with who are there, have been there ever since, aren't going anywhere else. That's it for them. And that's fine. But then there seems to also be the opposite. Those of us that grew up there that are like, nope, I got to get out of here. Just
Right.
not for me.
Yeah.
Got to go.
And those of
And
us who come there and never not from there, and we're like, wow, this is amazing. You guys are always like, you're crazy. What's wrong
yeah,
with you?
yeah. And I mean, I'm not trying to badmouth Tucson. Again,
No, you're
I
not.
have
You're
a
not.
great deal of affection and nostalgia for it. I appreciate it so much more now as an adult, but in my
Mhm.
20s, it was just not where I wanted to be. And I initially wanted to move to California, but even back in those days, the cost of living out there was astronomical. And I just knew,
Oh,
I was like,
not after the Great Exodus, not like now,
yeah,
right?
yeah, that's not super affordable like it is now. Um, so I just knew, as a young 20 something year old girl, I was not going to, it was a little out of my range. So I had recently met someone who had moved to Tucson from Las Vegas. And I kind of thought, oh, people actually live in Vegas? Interesting. And that's how Vegas came on my, got on my radar, quite honestly. Never been there. I had been there a total of one time for like 3 or 4 days before I moved there. Never stepped foot off the strip, but there was just something about it that I thought, this is where I'd like to be. I think I'm going to move here. And I did.
Well, so like, look, it sounds really simple, but I know that maybe I'm wrong about that one move, but I know moves in between and moves of my own. It takes a certain personality trait to go, I might have enough money to move, but I'm going to move.
Yeah.
And, and just have that, I know that you carry some anxiety like anybody, but there's a self-confidence there to be like, it's going to work. I'm going to go. And you did. I mean, because I remember those chats with you, where you were like, I don't know, I'm gonna have to get a job within like 4 days, kind of thing.
I think from my perspective, I like to think that it was confidence, but realistically, I think it was more just youthful ignorance. Like I didn't know any better. It never occurred to me that I would fail or that things would go wrong, because I had never suffered or gone through any sort of adversity at that point. It was like, well, this is what I'm going to do. This is what I want to do. So I'm going to do it. And I sort of marvel at that now, because I'm like, why wouldn't it occur to me that shit could have gone sideways real bad? Like, I just up and did it because it never occurred to me that I shouldn't or I couldn't, or that things might not go well.
Right. Well, I knew we were friends for a reason. Yeah. I mean, I think I want to dive into some of those things that would have, because I know that those moves you did end up making it and sustaining. But there were definitely moments that you're like, okay, maybe my time's done here.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and
just moments of pure struggle. We'll have to get into that in the long interview.
Yeah, that's not to say that there weren't struggles and trials and tribulations and things that went wrong. But again, the thought of those things never occurred to me before I did them. That I would encounter those kinds of things. It never occurred to me. So it wasn't a setback.
So do you feel like it was the same each time? Because I know that
No.
wasn't the first time, right? Like you say, youthful ignorance for that moment to move to Vegas. And then let's say when you're moving from Vegas to LA, do you feel like that youthful ignorance is still there? Is it a half tank?
The move from Vegas to Huntington Beach was really very different, because I was in a very unhealthy place personally at that moment in my life in Las Vegas. And so it was more of, I need to get away from here because this is a very unhealthy environment. So it was
and that
like
was much more personally involved struggle.
Yeah. And I just needed to get away. And so again, there was I'm just going to pack up, get rid of everything, only take whatever's going to fit in my car. I don't know what I'm going to do, or, I knew where I was going, but that was it. That was it.
You're living, breathing Pat Benatar song. I mean, it's cool. It's admirable. You packed up anything that would fit in the car and you went to Huntington Beach.
Yeah.
If you have one, what would you say your big lesson looking back was from your time in Vegas? And again, I don't know what to delve into. I guess what made you love it? What made you love it right away? If you had to say 3 things that made you feel like you needed to be there, because you did go back.
I did eventually go back. I did. I felt, because I felt I needed to, because again, when I left the first time, it was very much like, well, I'll be back. Vegas is home. I'm going through some stuff. I need to clear my head. I need to figure some things out. kind of get my shit together, so to speak, and then go back to Las Vegas. I wasn't supposed to be away for as long as I was.
I see.
So that was part of my decision to go back the second time. But getting there, I just felt like I had found my home. Like I loved that
I know that feeling.
I could go home and just exist in this quiet little desert city and live a normal life. But then just down the street, I had access to the best restaurants in the world, whatever
Right.
shows I wanted to
Yeah.
see. Everybody was coming through town. There was a good level of excitement. And when you're 21, 22 years old, that was a huge, it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of a lot of long nights. I'm glad that I lived my Vegas days with no social media and no camera phones.
Wow.
But
Yeah.
it it was a lot of fun. And then at the end of the day, like I said, I could go home, sleep in my own bed, get up, go to work. If I wanted to go out and have a long night out, it was just right there. If I wanted to stay home, I could stay home. And again, there's so many great restaurants out there. So many.
Okay,
So
so
many.
you're giving me a lot to work with here. So here's my first question, and I know we've had this discussion personally, but I think it's a good opportunity for you to display as somebody who's been a Vegas native long enough. When you keep referencing Vegas to somebody who's maybe never been there or only been there once for a weekend, they're thinking of the Strip.
Yeah.
Right. And there's two Vegases.
Yeah. Yeah. Truly.
Right.
Yeah. There's the Strip, which we all know well. And then there's Vegas off the Strip, which honestly, if I'm being perfectly honest, it's a lot like Arizona.
Surprising, they're both in the desert.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think I realized it as much the first 7-8 years I was there, but then when I left and came back to Arizona and moved to Phoenix, that's when I went, they really are just kind of the same thing off of the Strip. And I think that's kind of what helped me transition to Phoenix.
So getting from most of your experience working up until you decide that you are going to become a chef is in retail and in sales, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think retail can be just a lot of shit to complain about.
Yeah.
Comes with that territory. But in this case, I don't think it can be ignored that it did, like, the thought, the thinking to use it as a conduit to get to different places, I think was really something that a lot of people do not do. And
Really?
I don't think they do as much as it might seem that they should, because
Yeah.
it was it worked well, right? I mean, it worked well for you to get around. But I want to come back to what, like, value that plays in, like, do you feel like what you're doing now, do you feel like any of the experience you had in retail coming up in management or upper management there, did that give you any tools that you still use today?
Yes, in the sense that I've always been very shy, very quiet, very much an introvert. And I don't think I learned in any real way to come out of my shell until I started working in retail. And even to the point where my mom was like, wow, like once you started working in retail, she's like, you really opened up and were not afraid to, talk to people and speak up. And she saw me at work and she couldn't believe, how comfortable I was talking to people. And I'm like, yeah, well, you have to. And
Right.
I didn't realize it at the time how tremendous that is, because people will see me outside of work and it's still you're so quiet. Well, how come you never say anything? And I'm like, I don't know. That's just me, man. I'm quiet. Don't worry.
Talking all day.
Yeah, I've been talking all day. I don't want to, but when I'm at work, that's my comfort zone. I'm not afraid to speak up. I talk all day. My team is probably sick and tired of hearing me talk most days. And I think I never would have learned that, even though it's harder to channel it in my everyday life. I never would have learned how to speak up had I not worked in retail and to be comfortable interacting with strangers, because
Right.
that just never happened. I lived in
Oh, and
this.
that takes practice too. It's not even
It
just like
does.
once
It's
you
true.
learn it,
Yeah, it wasn't like an
you
overnight thing.
it takes
It happened over
repetition.
time. Yeah.
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 So you go from Tucson to Vegas. You've made the comments about how the restaurants were there. I'm the same way. You get your places that you go. Brando and I think, well, we went, right? We went to Saffron in Tucson.
I believe, I believe we did.
Yeah, I think she had joined us once. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it always looking for any good, like for me, that appreciation for food and for culinary at all comes by way of the fact that my mother was a managing comptroller for a registry resort and Kempinski hotels and Ritz-Carlton hotels. So
Wow.
single mom working in these areas gave me a lot of access to 5-star restaurants. And because I'm the manager's son, I it's not like they were going to kick me out of the kitchen. So a lot of them
Yeah.
put me to work. And what you tell me, a 10-year-old boy that doesn't want to be playing with fire and knives. So it was like right up my alley. Um, my family is rooted in Louisiana, New Orleans, which is known for food. Food plays a big
Mm-hmm.
role, and recipes and the feeling of food, the mood of food. I love it, and
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Brando and I used to cook every weekend, UFC fights, football games, whatever, and clearly got made fun of at the beginning until everybody starts eating, right?
Yep.
Then it becomes a staple. And then years later, after he and I aren't roommates anymore, and my wife and I have moved to a different state, I hear him talking about, he's buying a Nova sous vide cooker, and that he's got different recipes for his tri-tip, and that he tried this, and we're swapping recipes. Like, it's just,
Wow.
Brenda, you've gone to a whole nother level with this, so we can share a love of food here.
Big shout out to the ultimate bachelor kitchen accessory, the Instant Pot with air fryer lid.
Wow.
I have to use
Yeah.
my Instant Pot to make potatoes for Thanksgiving dinner. That'll be fun. I have a very good recipe.
See, look at the pride.
Wow.
You can hear it in his voice. This
That's...
guy had he made fun of me for making cappuccinos, and then he bought the same cappuccino maker.
It wasn't
look at that.
intentionally. It was not intentionally the same cappuccino maker. But I basically, about a year and a half ago now, I pretty much stopped drinking. So instead of finding like a good whiskey or a good scotch, I kind of just channeled that weird OCD-ish energy into making a damn good cup of coffee.
Hey,
And the ritual.
Down
I
the
love the
espresso
ritual.
path.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
that kettle. I got the pour over as well. I got the French press. Whatever you want, I can do it.
Wow.
Listen to this. You see what I'm saying?
Wow.
He's now
You want a
in
breve?
that
I will
sort
make
of
you a damn
zone.
good breve. I get my
From what
beans
you see.
locally sourced, freshly roasted. LaBuzz Cafe. Thank you very much.
Locally sourced, even. That's
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah, he's gone full tilt. It's hilarious
yeah.
because I remember when it was black coffee.
Well, to be
But-
fair, I still drink my coffee black, but
Good man.
But
Good man.
prepared the right way.
Yeah.
So
It's all in the preparation.
Is that history with you too, man? I mean, did your parents have a big cookbook, a lot of exposure to eateries and things too, like I did? Or or was that just through eating at my house?
No, food, growing up, food played a huge part in my upbringing. But not so traditionally. My dad was and is the home cook. My mom does not cook. She dials the phone and orders takeout. Yeah. Dad does all the cooking. So he would cook dinner most nights. Once the kids got older, we would chip in with whatever, limited knowledge. But he was the one that really, showed me how to use a knife, how to dice an onion, those basic kitchen skills all came from my dad.
When you've always been close to your dad, real close.
Yeah. He's, we share a special bond. And again, rooted in food.
Yeah.
But that's where it came from. Sunday mornings before church, Dad made us breakfast every Sunday. Every single Sunday we had breakfast. And
you could tell he cared about it by what he made, how he made it, how it looked when he gave it to you, the whole thing.
Yeah.
But
and
he may not have pointed those things out, right? But you can see it.
No, but to this day, that's how he cooks food for us. It's a joy to him. That's what he wants to do. He loves it. And that's where I got my love of food from initially learning and watching him cook. And
then fast forward to Vegas and you've got access to top tier quality, everything.
Yeah.
And you enjoy the hell out of it, of course.
Yeah. I mean, I like to think I can appreciate, I mean, I'm not necessarily a food snob. I can.
Sure you are. Give yourself some credit.
Okay, a little
bit. I am too.
But
a little bit.
I guess I like food that's executed well, whether it's a hot dog or it's a 4-star meal. It doesn't matter if it's good food. It's good food. That's what I appreciate.
Just feeding a roommate, plating is important.
Oh, absolutely.
Plating is important. You got to wipe that thing down, make it look pretty.
You can't have dirty plates.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't finger fuck
dirty
your plates.
plates is telling your dinner guest terrible.
There's our shirt. Soon to be coming to our merch catalog. Don't finger fuck your plate.
I had a chef who would tell us that. Don't finger fuck your plates. And if you do, wipe it down.
This is so much a part of what I loved about chefs that I would go and harass when I was a kid. I loved that brunt, no bullshit attitude, right?
You'll like cocaine, probably, yeah.
But I do. I like that, it was always cut all the fluff out of what I have to say. Don't finger fuck your plates it's great coaching. That's Bob Belichick level of coaching. I'm just telling you.
It got the point across, That's how we learned. Okay, don't get your fingers all over the plates. And again, if you do, clean it before you put it on the pass or send it over to chef to inspect.
So do you feel like deciding to go to Le Cordon Bleu was something that do you look back on that? Like, do you now, with your perspective now, do you feel like you knew you wanted to do that a lot longer before you sort of became aware of it? And did you just become aware of it in Vegas?
No, it was something I always wanted to do. But because of my very particular dietary restrictions when I was about 15, I became a vegetarian, and then that sort of morphed into becoming a vegan.
That?
I know.
I forgot.
It's been so long. It's okay.
Wow, that is Oh man, that is a good point. I had forgotten you were a vegetarian.
Vegan even. I was vegan when we met. I was hardcore obsessive vegan. I was, and we could do a whole other episode on that because
we're going to get into, we're going to have another episode.
It really was. I look back on it and I'm like, oh my God, that was an eating disorder is what happened. But that's another topic for another day. But,
well, just to kind of say,
so I was very restrictive in my diet at that time of after high school where it's like, well, what do you want to do? And I, at that point, had already known I loved food. I loved cooking, wanted to go to culinary school, but I would not let go of, I was so just that veganism, that restricted diet was so ingrained in me. And that's where I say it. That's why I really feel like it was more of an eating disorder, not just, oh, I'm a vegan. I was on a different level with it. And I would not let that go. I would not let that go.
Powers, man.
Yeah.
That's really impressive because to me, a life without cheese is a life not worth living.
I don't know how I did it for so long, but I was miserable. So there is that. And I didn't realize how unhappy I was until I started bringing those things back into my diet. But that
And
was
like
that
make
was
your pet
why.
eat vegan as well, right? Because some people
Maybe
actually do that.
ovo-lacto vegetarian. I can't help but think of Scott Pilgrim. I can't help but think of you going into Super Saiyan mode and playing a mad bass guitar with your vegan powers. If you haven't seen this crazy fun movie, Scott
I
Pilgrim
I know
is
we've talked
amazing.
about it so many times and I've never watched it.
I know, and you
Sorry.
should,
I know.
especially with this reference. You're
I
totally
will.
right. I do want to dive into that whole, because
Yeah.
I cannot believe it's been so long that I forgot you were a vegan.
Yeah, like I said, really, really just
I
obsessive
think
about
I
it.
asked you why you hated yourself when you told me. It's like, why do you hate yourself? I was, of course,
Just
joking.
proof
I'm
that
not trying to
bacon makes
offend
everything
vegans.
better.
It
Oh
does.
man,
It does.
we were definitely going to get into that at some point. And
Mhm.
look, to be honest, that's what we're trying with this new format. We're gonna, here in a few minutes, we'll probably get to a nice roundabout for people to kind of get to know you, right? And then
Sure.
we will do a, a more deep dive into all these motivations. But I want people to get the idea, right? We all have this in common with food and our love and appreciation of everything from presentation and not finger fucking your plate. So important. And it's just, for me, it was the fact that you, as long as I've known you, you have carried on independent. And I mean, everybody wants companionship, and you've had relationships, sure,
Mhm.
serious ones, but
Mhm.
none of them changed your own, like you deciding what you were going to do and then going right for it. And look, you've made it work every time on your own independently. And I just think that's kind of badass, fucking hard, and I think it's awesome. And I think you're funny as shit and interesting. So it's like, it's a good story, and I think it's definitely worth more of a deep dive. But
Yeah.
for now, we're gonna just jump from seeing it, knowing it. You will get into this in another the extension episode later on.
Mhm.
But you go from Tucson to Vegas. You go from
Mhm.
Vegas to Huntington Beach. Huntington Beach, you go, like, how long is it? In, like, I guess I should just ask, how old were you when you got into culinary school?
I was 28 going to be 29. Yeah.
Did you feel like you were later on time?
There was I think on time, quite honestly, because I knew it
That's
wouldn't
good.
have happened. It would not have happened. I may not have gone through it successfully had it happened earlier. It felt right at that moment, at that time. And I don't look back on it and go, gosh, I wish I would have done that sooner. No, it happened exactly when it
When
should
it,
have
yeah.
happened for me.
It was pretty smooth for you. How long did it take you to finish the program? And did you know you were gonna, like, do you pick a concentration? Did you know where you were going with that?
Yeah. So they basically um you can decide there's really only two. You can decide to be culinary focused or patisserie, baking and patisserie. And at first, um, I wanted to do culinary. And then the more I thought about it, I went, no, you know what? I really am more of a baker. That's uh, that's what that just felt right to me. There's it's thrown around as a cliche, but it really is true. Baking is a science. It's more precise. It's much more
Yeah,
1 + 1 = 2. That's it.
it's
There's an
chemistry.
equation. Yeah, you don't deviate from it. And if you do, you do so very carefully and only in certain ways. And while
And
I
that
love cooking, baking just seemed to soothe my soul and satisfy me in a way that cooking did not. And so I knew that was the program that I needed to go with.
Brandon, did you have something to say or ask there? I didn't mean to cut you
I was gonna yell at my dog, but I wasn't on mute.
off. You can throw it in there. Doesn't have to make sense. No, I mean, So you go to baking and patisserie. How long
Yeah.
did it take to get out of that again?
It was about
go
a
through the
2-year
program?
program. And they start you off, you go through what's called culinary foundations. So everybody's thrown into the same, maybe 7-8 months or so of just basic culinary stuff, knife skills, sauces, how to cook eggs,
Saucier.
yeah, literally all of the French, deeply rooted in French tradition, of course. You're making these ridiculous,
Buttercream.
yeah, like this ridiculous veal en blanquette, which is veal chunks braised in a weird white sauce that you go, who the fuck is eating this? What is this? No,
The king.
yeah,
Hello.
you learn how to do a consomme, with a raft that is so antiquated. Nobody does that anymore unless you're watching Top Chef and then you see people do it and you're like, oh my God, I
Well,
know how
that's
to
what
do
it's all
that.
about.
Look
Preparing
at that.
for Top Chef.
I can go on Top Chef.
You ever thought about getting on one? You ever thought about trying a show?
I have thought about it, but
Nice. I didn't expect that answer.
I have thought about it. Yes. Yeah.
Please
Maybe.
do. I would love to root for somebody on a show.
I don't think I have enough personality, and I don't think I'm competitive enough. There's a certain competitive edge I think you have to have that I don't really have that. I think halfway through I'd be like, all right, fuck this, I'm out.
Yeah, you definitely should do it. That would be a great show. I want to watch. I want to see you go there. Exactly.
Halfway through a quick fire, I'd be like, fuck this. I'm taking my knives and I'm going. I don't need Padma to dismiss me. I'm dismissing myself. You guys have fun.
Well, I was telling you it would be great. I would watch the hell out of it. It'd go viral. Especially if it was like Gordon Ramsay you're telling off. It'd be great. So this whole thing changed your life, though. I mean, you
did. Yeah.
You get the chef's hat effectively. Your whole line of work and career changes. It ends up again taking you as a platform to Vegas and back again. Really. Now, do you feel like that's, like you mentioned before, you just, you go there, you spend a few years, and you kind of feel like this is what I'm really missing is Arizona?
Oof. That's kind of a you're referring to the second time when I moved there in 2017.
Yeah, I mean, because I'm trying to build to the fact that you're,
back in.
You're a homeowner. I mean, you've got a beautiful home, and you live in Arizona in a very nice area near Phoenix. You're doing well for yourself, and it's all from this same like trailblazer sort of in it on your own kind of attitude. And I think a lot of people wouldn't necessarily have had that willpower, man. Brando doesn't. He's not a chef.
I am a journeyman level bachelor style chef. Yes.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong. Actually,
the last woman I cooked dinner for raved about it to her friends.
Oh.
I think every woman you've cooked for has raved about it.
To her friends?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I know of two. I have any idea. I don't know them, but I know of one that I do know. So I know there's definitely 3.
Oh.
Maybe
that
2.
Does say something.
Yes, I spatchcocked a chicken, roasted it in a cast iron pan, skin side down for about 30 minutes, flipped it around for the last 10 to get to temperature. By the way, big shout out to Thermopen. If you guys want to sponsor us, that'd be great. I will totally shill.
Please do. Thermopens are great. Yep. Love them.
Did some just sauteed asparagus, and then just a simple garlicky mashed potato thing on the side. Yeah. Now, the tiramisu for dessert, let me tell you about how I did that. I went to fucking Whole Foods and bought it. I'm not doing that.
I was so ready for this great story outlining your recipe for tiramisu. That was a great setup, man. I bought
Uh,
in. I 100% bought in.
I mean, don't
I
get me
know.
wrong. I'll give that a shot one day when I'm really bored.
Yeah.
But no. For a first date, I'm not making tiramisu. Anybody got time for that?
You know, I'm not an expert on Whole Foods desserts, but I've heard their tiramisu is fantastic.
It was
I bet it is.
surprisingly good.
They have a lot of quality products. If I had any reason to talk highly about them, I'd probably do it.
Mm.
But you know, I get where you're going with that.
Yeah.
Now, I find it funny because like just recently, you know, I've been like he's into his what would you call airless fryer? His airless fryer is his latest fascination. Mine is still I'm
Well, you know,
still very infatuated with my sous vide
interrupt because
cooker.
it's one of those things like a sous vide device I use to make up for apartment kitchens.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's fair.
That's
That's fair. I just think it's air fryer is I almost wish what should we call it? An immersion cooker is the right way to say it. Sous vide's just a fancy marketing tool. It's an immersion cooker, right? So it's essentially a cylinder you drop into some water, the water heats, you put some food in a bag. I did 4 turkey legs from frozen for 5 hours at like 155 degrees. And after I had kind of done a simple marinade, poured it right in the bag. You guys should look it up if you want to know what it is. I'm not going to bore you by going into too much description. Just suffice it to say, these turkey legs fell off the bone and were incredibly tender. I love the effect of something, whether it's presentation or something smart. Air fryer just blows my mind. It feels like a magic trick, like a rabbit out of a hat.
Yeah.
You know, here comes perfect French fries and they're not greasy.
And that's just because it's just purely marketing genius for not letting people know that an air fryer is just a very tiny convection oven.
Oh, is that what it is? Really?
Yeah.
That's all it is. Fancy marketing.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It's smart.
But it
Jack Donaghy.
The skin on my chicken wings and bone on skin on chicken breast, chicken thighs. Very good for that.
Interesting.
So have you lost any of your musical elitism? Elitist? I don't know what to say there. You still an elitist when it comes to music?
Yeah, I am. I have to admit, I am.
Give me something you like. You still find yourself playing that you were addicted to when you were working at Strictly.
Oh,
and don't go for the low hanging fruit. I know what you're gonna go ahead and say it, so I don't have to make fun of it.
I mean, do you want specific? I don't want to name specific bands, but I mean, the genre is the same. That hasn't changed. Come on,
you gotta have one. There's timeless bands. I could think of one that I think you might say.
What?
I'm not saying it. You should say it. I'll have to do an impression of the man.
They are my favorite. They will always be my favorite. Yes. Metallica. There. I said it. Yes.
Thank you.
Considering we're coming up on the holiday season, I do need to tell the listeners out there about my favorite Christmas tradition. The couple of days actually leading up to Christmas, I combat the onslaught of Christmas music by having the first 4 Metallica albums in rotation in my car going.
That's
with
fantastic.
the windows down to spread the love.
Yes, that's how they should be listened to. Absolutely.
This is gonna make Mitch incredibly happy. He's got fingers pointed to the sky in metal form right now.
I am I'm a metal girl at heart. That's that genre I go back to every single time. It has evolved. You know, I listen to a lot of other things, but if you scroll through my phone, through my Spotify account, it's still dominated by heavy metal. It's just, that has not changed. Don't think it's going to.
Righteous, dude. I like that a lot. A lot. Well, I think this has been a good opportunity for people to kind of get a good sense of not only our friendship, but a little bit of who you are. Would you come back and do a deeper dive into some of what motivated some of those moves and some of the things you've had to overcome?
Yeah, absolutely. Of
And
course.
that way people can continue kind of hearing your story. I know we just kind of barely jumped all over it, but I think we got to the heart of it. And I will talk about food and recipes and honestly, I think it might be a cool thing to have every now and then is just what are we eating? Especially
Yeah.
now. And
Yeah.
so I'm before I kind of jump off and we end this episode, I got a couple of last minute questions. One
Okay.
is let's save kind of the what are you eating, but I'll get you thinking about that now. Because I know times are tough. You got to deal with a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
You get burnt out. What's the food that gets you through? Okay, don't answer me. Yeah, go ahead. Let's start there. Let's just go with it. What is the food you're using to get you through? Brando, you're next. What are you finding yourself keep going back to?
Um,
Doesn't have to be something you made, by the way. You could say Five Guys. It could be anything that is your comfort food. Like, what's your comfort food in 2020?
I wouldn't say it's there. It's two things. One, as just a general idea, breakfast foods. When I start my day with a really good breakfast, whether that's bacon and eggs, an omelet, it's always savory. I'm not a sweet breakfast girl, but a good breakfast, that's comforting to me. The other thing is that I discovered in Las Vegas, a good bowl of spicy ramen, authentic Japanese ramen.
Real ramen. Yeah, real
Yes,
ramen.
not like
Yeah.
the packet from the grocery store for 10 cents. Like a real bowl with the nice soft boiled egg and that's my thing. That's one thing I miss about Vegas because there are so many amazing ramen places. Thankfully, one just opened up the street down here for me, and I had it last night, and it was amazing. So
That's so
good.
good.
It was so
Brando,
good.
what's the food that's getting you through lately, bro?
It's a very similar lane to Larissa. The especially in the morning, the sriracha honey sunrise bagel sandwich from Brugger's.
Oh my gosh, it's so good. Sorry, it's so good.
No,
Yes.
I just pay. I just let them extort me for extra bacon, and it's it is the perfect breakfast sandwich.
Yes.
I do get it
I
on a jalapeno bagel every now and then just to change things up, but oh,
same.
it's so good.
Same.
It's so
Yep.
good.
It's so good. I
I
know it
love the
well.
jalapeno bagel. Yeah. So I haven't. It's been a long time since I've
And,
bought a
and then to
bagel
be
sandwich.
fair, I have been spending a lot of time with my tawdry pandemic mistress. Her name is Chipotle.
Oh, no judgment. No judgment.
No
They
judgment.
brought the carne
It's a good
asada
one.
back. It's really good.
No
I
judgment.
tried that for the first time recently. Got to admit, the hype was worth the hype. Lived up to the hype.
If they want to do something
Yeah.
good in 2020, they could bring back the chorizo as well.
Oh, I never tried that.
Ooh, that was
It was
good.
all right.
Good.
It was all right.
I mean, look,
Yeah,
it wasn't Nico's quality. There wasn't restaurant quality. But
Sure.
yes, Chipotle is good enough. It's good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine's pretty simple, man. I live in Southern Louisiana, so it's been yeah. I mean, what can I say? There's a great hole in the wall po' boy shop that I can get a corned beef po' boy that's for some reason I'm addicted to. Their pastrami is really good, and then fried chicken. There are little
I
places
was
here,
just thinking
not so
about
much
fried
like
chicken
Popeyes,
today.
but I'm just saying some of the. Oh, and I will say it's not New Orleans without candied bacon. Brando, I know you're gonna have something to chime in with Tucson, but Ruby Slipper here is one of those places you go to that have the confit eggs Benedict and the candied bacon. It's still those things are what's getting me through this,
Confit
buddy.
eggs Benedict.
Yeah,
Yep.
Can you explain that to me, please? Because I'm intrigued.
you'll have to come and visit when all
Oh,
this is
But-
done.
What is confit?
No, it's I'll have to explain it when we have more time.
Confit.
It's not the D.
Still
I didn't say a D there, but so moving on. yeah, I mean, that's all I'm getting. Believe me, we'll go deep dive into
Okay.
food. But if I
Oh
start
yeah.
going into it, we're gonna have a long, about
I'm
what
already
what's
hungry.
what. There's a whole nother language here, and even if I made a mistake there, when you have it, you'll see what I was talking about.
Okay.
So my last question is more on I guess, an odd tangent, but it's been something of a reoccurring theme, and I want to touch on it before I let you go.
Hmm.
And it has more to do with real world. We've talked about all this stuff we love because of sort of what the nature of my conversation today has been. I've I've noticed that, and we talked about this on the phone recently about the significance of having a woman in the vice presidency,
Hmm.
and I've found it really interesting just to see um, what women feel as a reaction to that, whether not necessarily agree or disagree on the politics of that
Sure.
person, but you're this, the way I've kind of see you as this person who's been very, if you want to use that metaphor, you're cracking at the glass ceiling, right? What's the significance to you personally, or is there one, that Kamala Harris is now the vice president or vice president elect?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, formalities.
Um, I was initially I was surprised at how instinctually emotional it felt. I wasn't sure. I wasn't. I was glad that Joe Biden picked her, even though she was not my female choice of candidate. But I thought she was a good pick, someone I could support. Um, and I didn't realize how much it was going to mean till the election was, called in their favor. And I found myself getting very emotional, and I couldn't quite understand why. Um, because it just felt very significant. This felt like something I was never going to see in my lifetime. A woman as a vice president, much less a woman, a mixed race woman, a woman of color. I
Right.
never, ever thought that would happen. And, I didn't grow up thinking that as a female, there was anything, my parents weren't sort of championing me as like, oh, you can do anything. You could be president of the United States. Like it wasn't
They weren't
that
doing the
level,
opposite either, right? They weren't
but they
like, you
weren't,
can't do
yeah, but it never occurred to me that I couldn't do something simply because I was a female. That didn't
that.
come
Right.
until I was an adult. Side note, actually working at GameStop, that was the one, like, wow, okay, I'm seen as less than or different from simply because I'm a female. And that sort of
Right.
formed
How
me
could you
as,
know what that game was going to be like?
yeah,
How could you? Yeah.
how could you know how to hook up a system? How could you know what's in stock? Do you even play video games? Do you just work here because of your boyfriend so he can get a discount? All of those that was the first time in my life where I felt viewed in a negative way simply because I was female. And it sort of opened my eyes to the idea that that's how women really are seen in most walks of life. And
Did you get that when you talk about sports, where men would just be like sort of unnervingly shocked
I
that you knew as much as you did about
I
what was going on?
do.
And
Yeah, I still do. I still get that one. Where it's happened most recently at the new store that I'm at, where guys will be in the office, you know, on the other side talking about something, and then I'll chime in, and then they'll kind of be like, "Oh, you know baseball?" And I'm like, "Yeah, motherfucker, I've been watching it since I was 5. What are you talking about?" "Yeah, I know baseball and football. You want to talk about hockey? Because I know hockey too.
you want to talk some
College
shit?
football, college
You want to
basketball.
talk
What
some
do you
shit?
got?"
Let's go, bro. Let's
Shit.
go.
"I know tennis too. Okay, what do you
Oh
got? Let's talk about it."
well.
Uh,
Let's. I don't want to get your K Swiss dirty and get really into it here.
You want to talk about the
but
Masters? Dog, let's get into it.
you know what? I watch the Masters every single year. I
No,
really
I
do.
think it's no. I like that.
But
I just think it's like you're saying. I'm a child of a headstrong single woman, and my sister's headstrong and opinionated. It
Okay.
always takes me back that, I don't react that way because it doesn't really occur to me like that. It's not, I
Hmm.
just don't see it, right? And then
Yeah.
I hear about it and I see it right in front of me from other people, and it always seems really like hilarious or trivial. I can't imagine not being taken seriously
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
So
And
then go ahead,
to
please. Sorry.
see, yeah, so just to see a strong female put in that position, and then to be set up for a very real possible presidential run in 4 years is
Right.
incredible. It's incredible. I still can't quite articulate what that means and what it feels like. It's just, it just feels amazing. It's just incredible. And I love that I'm alive in a time to see that happen, because I literally never thought I would see it. And like I said, there was a black man in the office of president in the White House as president before a woman. And I thought, and that's amazing. And I loved, again, I'm so excited that I got to see that happen. But I thought, there's never going to be a woman. There's never going to be a woman.
Or not in
They
your
will
lifetime.
not in my lifetime. Not in my lifetime.
So I have a couple questions about that. And you don't have to delve in. Uh, so those are the kinds of things that just didn't occur to me. And I'm going to reference a conversation I had with my wife, Brooke, right after we were discussing that it looked like it was going to be Biden Harris,
Mm-hmm.
and she got emotional too. And the statement that sticks with me is when she said, I didn't, like, almost like, I think what she said was she didn't know it could happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that is not something I think, um like, for me, I perceive that as sort of, I was completely blind to that line of thinking. Like, for me, I've as a man, I'm sitting there thinking, oh yeah, it's gonna happen, it's just a matter of time, right? Like, I'm not, again, some of those thoughts are trivial to me, where uh, somebody who might thinking that a woman couldn't do it because they were a woman would just be sort of weird. I'm always wanting to know who the person is.
Mm-hmm.
um but I would have never thought, oh, I didn't know it could happen. And that kind of really quickly went into a discussion about the, like, how women, or some women, felt about the election in 2016, and less, like, more on this front of masculine, feminine, that like, those were represented, not so
Yeah.
much uh uh Clinton and Trump, that it was more the country voted for the patriarchy,
Right. Yep.
right?
Yep.
Not just because not because it was Republican necessarily, but because of the voice that was being represented there by
Yes.
some of the things that Trump was saying, and his history and things like that. And so, it just didn't hit me that, and that's really blind of me, right? But it just didn't
Yeah.
occur to me that that would be the way that it felt for a woman or women, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so for Harris to get into that office, um, you seem to be echoing some of those same sentiments.
Yeah. Well, and also I think because of the way the election went in 2016, it felt like you said, it felt like a victory for the patriarchy, and it felt like we took so many steps back. And again, it just felt like, well, gosh, how is this ever, it's never going to happen at this point.
Right.
Maybe we could have, but we saw this woman make a good run for it, win the popular vote, but ultimately it didn't happen. So it just, that defeat, whether you supported Hillary Clinton or not, in that regard, it felt like such a crushing defeat. And I think
For
a
women.
lot of, for women, yes. And I think when that
Yeah.
happened, it was really defeating, because that was a sign to me that, wow, okay, this is really a man's world. It's just going to be dominated
Okay.
by men because that's what the country wants. They want that pussy grabbing man in the White House. Okay, great.
I actually got
Great.
a question here for you on that, Larissa. And thank God this didn't happen, but would you have felt the same sense of elation if Sarah Palin would have wound up our first female vice president, first woman in the
Very
White
good
House?
question. No, I would not. No, I would not.
Good answer. Okay.
No,
That kind
no.
of that's a good way for me to segue into a question I had about it too, because I think without like I mean, there's a lot of jokes that have already been made by professional comedians about
And
Sarah Palin.
may I just say, I'm getting a little ahead of myself here, but my other question for you, Larissa, sorry to interrupt you, Charlie, was
No, go ahead.
what made for you Clinton's loss more impactful? The fact that she is a woman, or the fact that if you just look at her resume, there's basically probably never been a better candidate for the president in the history of our country? Or
Both,
both?
quite honestly.
Right.
Yeah, both, because I don't. Ooh, I hope this isn't a bad way of saying this, and this doesn't come across in a negative way, but I don't. Okay, let me say it this way: I don't believe in supporting people simply because of their gender. I'm not going to support a
Right.
woman just because she's a
Right.
woman.
Right.
And same thing,
Like
not just like I'm not going to support a man just because he's a man, and that's man should be president, and so that's what I'm going to support. I'm going to support a man. And so I would not have supported Hillary Clinton just because she was a woman. I would not have supported Sarah Palin just because she was a woman, or Kamala Harris. I don't believe in supporting a particular person, whether that's an athlete, a politician, a team member that I work with, whatever it may be. I want the best person for the job, man or woman. That's it.
Well, so
I gotta say,
go ahead.
I think both of you may find very amusing the moment I realized when Kamala Harris would be fantastic in the White House, and why I'm a little scared of her, to be honest. As a person, not a member of the executive branch. Do you remember her ripping Bill Barr a new asshole in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mamala scares me. Would you ever want to be on the receiving end of that anger? Dear God.
Well, but so, this is kind of
No.
my point. Right? This is what I want to point out, though, because we were drawing these. We're talking about Hillary and we're talking about Sarah Palin, and Palin was before we could say anything about her personality or how she read or her interviews where she didn't have clearly any resource information to quote on. She was a
I
governor.
read all the newspapers.
Right. Was a governor on paper, served in government. Can't take that away. Not as relatable to a huge portion of the country, right?
True.
Then you have Hillary Clinton, who, again, on paper, with everything that she had accomplished in offices she had presided over, like you said, most qualified. And again, though, problem with relatability from women, some women, and definitely for men. And then, like you said, the end result is what you've described feeling. So then you get to what you're talking about with Kamala Harris and Bill Barr. She's a grade A prosecutor. Put that on display in that session.
I feel like I did something wrong just listening to that.
but that is a more. I'm saying that it's almost. I guess my question for you, Larissa, is actually two questions. Did you know of Kamala Harris in California when you were there?
No, not while I was living there. No, I did not.
Okay, so no problem. So then move forward to now. It's not just it's got to be, from my very male perspective, it seems like it would be more gratifying that it's not just a woman. It's not just a woman with a great resume and pedigree to be in that office, but it's that the person and the prosecutorial approach that's been on display and how she did in the primaries, and speaking, being the way she is self-spoken
Yeah.
and the strength that comes from there. Is it that's some extra part of, like, it's a really good representation for more of the kind of woman that I have interactions with and I'm married to. Like, I see more of that prosecution going on my way, and that kind of strength, and being well spoken to your opinion, and having the conviction to stand with it. I mean, she's
Yeah.
that's an impressive person that is also a woman.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's not just that she's a woman, it's that she is a particular type of woman that is admirable and strong, and that makes it even more impactful and impressive and
Would you say
meaningful.
self-made?
Yeah. Yeah. And dare I say inspiring, you know. My
No, that's
cold, dark,
awesome.
black jaded heart was,
Go ahead,
yeah,
please. It's
even a little
inspiring.
inspired by it.
Brandon, did you have something to add? We both jumped in and cut her off.
Yeah, we totally just scrambled her brain. No, I was just agreeing with you, and once again, kind of didn't realize I was unmuted.
Ah,
Ah,
okay. Well, on the inspirational note of saying, that she's an inspiration, I guess that's my last question before we end this episode, and we have a lot to delve into in another part, and we'll definitely
Mhm.
schedule it as soon as possible. But
Sure.
we've got to go into some of these obstacles. We've got to go into more food. We've got to go into a lot of different discussions. There's a lot of story here, and I really appreciate you coming on and doing this. But this is my last question.
Mhm.
Does this moment in time and that person in that office and how emotional you feel, does it change your like yourself, like your view of yourself in the world? Like, as much as 2016 might have changed your view of where you fit into the world, do you feel like this has well, obviously hopefully a greater impact, but does it?
I don't think it has yet, but I'm hopeful that it will.
Right. Well, that's exciting to think of, I'm sure, right? Like, what's
Yeah.
it going to be like in 2 years?
Yeah. And I think again that's where that emotion, that inexplicable emotion behind it, I think it's rooted to that maybe it doesn't, it's not, there's more to it.
That's a great answer.
Mm.
Larissa, thanks for taking the time.
Yeah.
I know you're busy. I know you got a lot, and you've really done us a favor by coming on the show and letting us talk your ear off and cut you off a few times. I'm very sorry.
It's okay. Thank you for
and we're going to talk some,
inviting me and having me and talking to me. I appreciate it.
Oh man, I loved it. We're gonna do more. Brando, what were you gonna say?
and we're going to talk some serious shop next time too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's a given.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hey everybody, thank you for joining us on another episode of Brevity Box. Hope you've enjoyed. Hope you've enjoyed it as much as we have. We're having a really good time making the show and trying to bring interesting content to you. We are part of the Ruminations Radio Network. There is a good amount of content with a lot of variety there. If you like what you're hearing with us, and we hope that you do, like and subscribe, and also check out our network at www.ruminationsradionetwork.com. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you next time.